All right, welcome back to the Agent Investor Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Caffarella, and I've got a special guest today, Joe Bell. Joe, what's going on today?
Hey, typical real estate, right? Wake up in the morning, see what's on fire, what you have to put out, and what opportunities you're going to run after.
Yeah, that's why it's fun, right?
That's it. New day
Yeah.
every day.
I came from an accounting background out of college, and I think that was the part that I hated. Like every single day was the same
I'm
thing.
sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So like when people talk about fires and stuff like that, I'm like, hey, like I signed up to go from like no fires to fires every second because I think it's more fun. I mean,
Yeah.
you have different days every day. So for our audience, can you kind of just give us a little bit of background about how you got into real estate, like what you're doing now, how you got into investing and all that good stuff?
Yeah. So I've been in real estate for 15 years now. Back in '06, I kept hounding this longtime real estate agent, real estate professional. And he kind of kept pushing me off to other stuff. And then finally he's like, all right, kid, come in and, here's a phone book. Here's a pad and paper, like see what you can do. So what was nice about '06, '07 coming into the industry was the market was starting to kind of go, right? And
Yep.
so I came up in a down market, and that's been probably one of the most beneficial parts of my background is learning how to survive in a market that was super challenging. I mean, sitting on hold with short sale REO managers for 2 hours trying to get a deal that like just crap, right?
Yep.
So when the tide came back in, like I was just a boat that ended up coming up with it, and it provided a lot of opportunity, most specifically in the real estate investment side of things. I naturally just gravitate towards those conversations. The real estate professional that brought me into the game was commercial, and I played in that realm for a little while, but realized residential paid more often.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just it was more of a niche that made sense with me. So anyway, I jumped into the residential side of things, started a team. I come from sports background. The leadership from sports just plays perfectly over into the real estate transactional game. And so we built a team. We started having a ton of success. Our boats were floating, and I was in conversation with investor after investor. I saw all this real estate, this millions of dollars exchanging right in front of me, and I'm left with the peanuts, if you will, of the transaction. I mean, it's a great living, right? But what was happening is I was seeing the wealth transfer right in front of me, and I wasn't taking part of it.
Yep.
So I made a decision that this is enough, focusing on the day-to-day transactional piece. I need to figure out how to get a piece of the pie.
Yeah, exactly. So how many years in did you kind of have that, I don't know, call it an epiphany or just like you got fed up?
Yeah, so it took me about 3 years for real estate to really catch on. I came in at 26. As you can tell, I have a baby face, right? So, so asking people to make the largest investment of their lives with me was a little bit challenging. But luckily, I came from the financial advisory side of things, so I was versed in that conversation. But about '09, we bought our first house, and with the intention of adding some value to it. And from there, that gave me a little bit of basis. But I mean, early on, I was thinking about investments, and it was just a matter of time before I was able to get some financial wherewithal under me to where I had the confidence to ask the question of getting involved in the investment side of things. So we started in '09. Really, we didn't pick up steam till probably 12 or 13, and then we built a business with one of the real estate investors that we were representing, and next thing I know, we're flipping houses and making money off of investing in those homes.
Well, I love what you just said. I mean, there's so many things to kind of unpack in that statement. One of the things that I want to just focus a little bit on is the fact that you ended up partnering with one of your investors.
Yep.
So I think one of the big things that every agent says to me, like most agents will say, hey, like I want to invest in some capacity. But then
Right.
there's the reasons why they can't. They don't have the money, they don't have the construction expertise, whatever the thing is. So tell me a little bit about how that partnership was formed and what the benefits to both of you are.
Yeah. So the real estate investor that we ended up partnering with was at the time my wife's boss,
Mhm.
and so she would always hear about these investments that he was doing, and she would kind of pepper him with, hey, my boyfriend at the time, you
Yep.
know, is in real estate, and so we made the connection. And again, I mean, this was so first off, this guy's way older, right? Him and his wife are way older than us, way more seasoned, more experience. They've had success already in real estate
Come
investments.
on, Joe. You're not that young. Stop trying to sell us on how young you are. Come on.
I have to, right? Because
You
one of
have to.
one of the marketing
You're
pitches
like,
that
I am so young, you don't even understand.
one of the marketing pitches that my PR came up with was the 40-year-old real estate agent. I was like, hold on, I'm 39. Like, come on.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Anyway,
So I'm 38, so I feel like I'm in the same thing as you. It's like you still feel like you're young, but you're like, wait, that calendar keeps going. Years keep ticking by. But yeah, go ahead.
every
Sorry.
every decade it's like, oh, 30's the new 20, 40's the new 30, like it's whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I mean, as a as a 28-year-old, not making a lot of money but starting to have some success, I was pulling on this guy's coattails going, hey, just give me a shot, give me a shot, give me a shot. And he had a long-standing relationship with another agent, and the more I learned about it, it wasn't this great, healthy relationship that they had. It was just comfortable, right?
Yep.
Because it's who they'd been working with for a while. So we built a friendship with this investor. And finally, one night, late December, and I think it was like 2010, 2011, somewhere in there. I get this call and he's like, hey, there's a frozen property. I want to go see it right now. And it was like 8:45, 9 o'clock at night. It's in December. It's cold. It's dark. And he's like, bring some boots. Okay. So next thing I know, I end up in the crawl space in the basement of a fourplex, and the thing's completely frozen. Um, and we're waiting around in water, and we end up learning that it wasn't just the pipes that had broke, but there was also a sewer line that was leaking. So we're walking in other people's shit, water, excuse my language. And it was in that moment where I was like, man, this is right where I want to be. Standing in poop water up to my knees. This is not a bad gig. So anyway, he saw my commitment, and what I like to say is, what I lack in talent, I make up for with persistence. And that's just, it's been the name of my game since I was 9 years old, learning how to throw a baseball.
Yeah.
I've always been persistent. I've always wanted to strive to be better, strive to be the best. Very, very rarely did I ever become the best, but I've always been really, really good, provided I committed and, put the time and effort into it. And so I think this guy saw a little bit of himself in me. And finally he was like, all right, let's go. And so our first deal, I ended up finding it. I pitch it to him and I say, hey, what do you think about cutting us in? I'll give my commission, which was about $9,000. And he said, that's awesome. That's great. Let's do it. And oh, by the way, I'm going to bump up your percentage of ownership to, I think it was 20%, 20 or 25% on that first one. And that was our first interaction. And it was one that was very profitable, worked out extremely well. And from there, it was like, okay, boom, let's start a company. You find the deals. You tell me what they're going to be worth. We'll provide the resources and some of our knowledge. And then you'll have to sell them on the backside. And here's the split that we're going to work with.
So what you just said, that relationship and the exact structure of that relationship is something that almost any agent can do. And I
Absolutely.
It's so important to just hit on that and focus on that because, again, you had probably limited resources, limited capital, right? I'm not saying you had no money, but to do this stuff, sometimes you do need a good amount, right? So you're younger, same thing with me. I was younger, I was in the same position, did a similar type thing. but you're providing for value one of the things that a lot of people can't, which is finding deals.
Right.
And that's the part that I think that people take, especially agents, they take it for granted that finding the deal is, you could argue whether it's the hardest part or it's like halfway, 50% of it, but it's a big component of it. And it's a component that if you're somebody that has capital, has some labor resources or whatever, like a lot of times they don't want to hunt around all day for deals. Like that's not the part that they enjoy. They may have the capital, they may have some contractors, but like for them, it might just be more passive. And you as an agent, that's what you're out doing every day. You're out every day hustling. And that hustle brings profit to the table. And I'm sure that's what, how you guys ended up continuing to work together. And so you did that first deal with him, it went well. And then how long ago was that?
Let's see. I think we officially started our company in 14.
And you're still working together today?
We just dissolved the company. They retired. Like I mentioned, they were a little bit older. They retired. And that was probably one of the most beautiful pieces of our relationship, was the opportunity for me to watch them go through a couple of iterations of investments and then go, all right, now it's time to cash out. Boom, boom, boom. And for me to just kind of sit back and watch how this whole thing played out was a whole different set of knowledge in itself, going through it with them. Today, they are my daughter's godparents. They ended up moving out of state. They're closer to their family. They're building this massive home. I think it's like 192 feet across, right? And it sits on a river. It's on vines, vineyard. Me watching this all play out, it just stoked the fire so much more to go, okay, like the long tail is worth it. Wealth is important. Teaching people how to build wealth is important. And teaching some of our real estate professionals in the industry is hyper important, because back in 15, I took over a brokerage. It was the biggest brokerage here in Alaska. And I think we were close to 350 agents at that time. The brokerage was doing about $1 billion in business, which is super sexy. And I love to be a part of that story, but I'm not the reason for that story, right? But I would sit down with agent after agent after agent that's been in 12, 15, 20 years. And I go, hey, what's retirement look like? And they go, well, I'm planning on the next transaction. I'll probably put a couple $1,000s towards it, right? And I just started realizing, like, these people aren't buying real estate. Like, it baffled my mind. Like, what the hell are you doing? Like, you get into real estate to buy real estate. Like, you are missing the greatest opportunity of your life to build wealth and transfer wealth. So that sent me on a mission. Shortly thereafter, I ended up jumping out of that company. I started my own, and the mission was about building wealth. So we set up a commission structure where half of the commission that came in, the company dollar, I should say, that was paid towards the brokerage, half of it we put into an account. It was like a forced savings account. And we went and invested that money on their behalf, solely to generate a return on their behalf, because the majority of folks weren't doing it for themselves.
That isn't it. Like, I have never heard that model before. Did you see somebody else doing that, or did you come up with that on your own? Or
no, I looking at what was happening, the trends in the industry, right? There's profit share, there's rev share, there's share, right? And I just wanted to base this, because look, if our industry is going to change and all this cash infusion is going to come in, like if these iBuyers and Open Doors and Knock and everything starts really gaining some ground, Zillow, we're screwed when it comes to the recruiting game, right? It's not the real estate industry anymore. It's the recruiting industry. Like it's crazy how out of control it's got. But if we start losing deals, we start losing the opportunity for recruitment. We start losing the opportunity for this profit share, rev share, share. So I said, to hell with it. We're going to invest in hard assets and I'm going to force you to participate.
That,
This is, sorry, go
what
ahead.
what a value prop and sales pitch that is. I mean,
Yeah, no,
when I say sales pitch, I mean it in a good way. A good sales pitch is a win-win, right?
right,
So that's a win for you, right? You can bring in some talent that
for sure.
wants to invest in real estate, and a huge win for the agents, because you're almost like Social Security for real estate investing, right?
Well, up here in
Not in
Alaska,
a bad way, in a good
no,
way.
not at all. Right. Yeah,
What
no,
Social
not
Security
the
was probably
negative
meant to be.
side. Yeah. Up here in Alaska, we have a fund. It's called the Permanent Fund, right? Alaska Permanent Fund. And this was built off of oil in investments that were made during the oil boom.
Yep.
And so I've been receiving anywhere from $700 to $1,800, maybe even more, every year that I've been an Alaskan resident.
Yep.
And it's like, when you start to take a step back and go, man, I'm not doing anything for that, but being a part of this community, being a part of the state, and the fundamental structure of it just makes so much sense for folks that are not capable or are not willing or are not committing to building any sort of wealth in the future. So why don't we just apply a structure that's similar? And I can go down a long rabbit hole of how we can build this thing out to support these individual communities based on real estate sales. I'll save you that for right now. But just the fact that nobody was doing it for themselves forced me to go and figure out how to do it for them. Right.
Now, is that something that every agent in your office is a part of?
Whether they like it or not.
Yeah.
But here it is, right? I mean, if you think of your conventional approach to companies building 401ks for folks, right? It's the same premise. It's like you're paying this amount to your brokerage, one way or another.
Yep.
We're choosing to take that money. It's the brokerage's money, and we're going to apply it in a manner that earns a return. That's the idea. And then create a benefit at some future date for you. So if you're spending $10,000 a year that's going into this fund and you're with us for 10 years, there's $100,000 that's waiting for you on the other side. And if it compounds at a 7% interest rate year over year over year, hopefully that turns into 130, 140,000, which nobody has set up. I mean, outside of your top 5%, right? And so we're forcing it on them, and it just creates more and more opportunity.
Yeah, I don't even know if the 5% do it. I mean, I think the numbers are even lower than that, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't have any stats. I've got 325 agents right now on my brokerage, and I'm just, thinking out loud about this stuff. It's very interesting. So, so now talk a little bit about the fact, like the other things that being an agent has allowed you to do on the investing side.
Yeah. Well, I mean, outside of seeing the deals firsthand, having the conversations firsthand with folks that, in some cases, right, the whole investment game, you've got sharks, you've got people that take advantage of it, right? And then there's the other side of people that work towards doing good and help people in bad situations. Okay. It can be construed either way you look at it. But when you're sitting across the table from somebody that is truly hurting, doesn't have a way to get out, and there is an opportunity for you to help and for you to also help yourself in that process and provide full disclosure that has the potential to happen, most of the times, like, you see their eyes light up in presenting the opportunity to go, hey, look, here's what we could do. You need to get out of town. You need to get down to your family to help your mother, right? Like, so many times we've run into these conversations, and it was just a matter of going, all right, I've now been in this game for a little bit. I've got a network of resources. How can I apply that to help some of these folks in these conversations just not have to deal with any more stress, right? Because the real estate transaction is stress, whether you like it or not, no matter how good of an agent you are, whatever. There's stress involved. You don't know if their appraisal is going to meet value. You don't know if the buyer is going to be able to finance. You don't know, right? What are we missing in the inspection? Blah, blah, blah. So if you can alleviate some of that process, then it provides an opportunity for you to basically build value in those transactions. And so when you're having those conversations, those opportunities come up. If you're prepared and you have a network of resources, then it's just that much easier, and it makes your life that much easier in that transaction, and being able to help people on the other end is a big win.
Mm-hmm. So, let's address the shark thing for a second, because I think that's like another, I don't want to call it, I call it an objection, but it's something that the people think about. And I think that, if you haven't been in the real estate investing world at all, and, you see somebody get a great deal on a house, that shark, hey, like, somebody stole that house, or, those type of things. Talk a little bit about some of the situations that you've been in where you've left, the dining room table with somebody being like, whoa, that was a huge win-win, and I provided value as an investor.
Yep. I have one that I'm going through right now, and I have one that we just acquired.
Okay.
So the one that we just acquired is a scenario where a gal had been living in her place for 20 plus years, didn't have the resources to do what was necessary with the property to bring it up to a financeable condition. And she had tried to sell it in the past. She had gotten under contract, and it was always this matter of who was going to pay for a septic system to go in. And it's a pretty expensive endeavor. It was probably 45,000 to put in a proper system. And she just never had the resources to do so. The buyer was never comfortable to say, oh yeah, I'm going to go and spend $40,000, right? Or if there was that sort of gap in the deal, to put that money aside to make it happen. So finally, she just got fed up and she wanted out. She wanted out of the property. She had to leave the state by a certain date in order to travel down to the lower 48 in more of a safe manner versus driving down in the wintertime. Mm-hmm. So she basically said, hey, look, will you do this and help me get on to the next stage of my life? And we said, yeah, sure, we're interested. What does it look like? And she gave us a number, and that number made sense enough for us to go, yep, okay. We feel like there's enough gap that it makes sense for us to put our time and energy in. There's a mitigated risk in the deal. I mean, you still have to put an expensive system into the ground, right? But there was enough opportunity in it. And the day of closing, she called me up and she was like, oh my God, I haven't been able to get rid of this property. This is amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And that's, I was a part of the conversation. I didn't even really have to pitch it, right? It was just purely, yeah, I've got some resources. Let's apply it.
I think that's the part that, if you're not in it every day and you don't understand and you haven't been through a bunch of these transactions, like my best testimonials are not from listing houses. They're from buying houses, because that situation is it not true?
Oh, absolutely. Like true. They're so grateful. Like like the headache is gone.
Right.
Right. Like,
right. And what I say to people is like, it's not a thing where 50% of the people want to sell to an investor or a cash buyer. It's like 5 or 10%, but those 5 or 10% of the people, it makes sense for them, and it's the right thing for them to do, and it's the right thing for both sides of the transaction. Like I've done over 1,000 investment deals. I've never had anyone come back to me and be like, oh, that was a mistake. It's always grateful, and it's a good transaction, and it's a win-win. And I feel like, a lot of times agents they miss the boat on that in terms of just creating a win-win. They're almost they're forcing or trying to force what they think makes sense, even though they're not necessarily listening to the seller. Like the seller could be saying, I want X, and they're like, no, you don't want X, you want Y. And it's like, well, no, I really want X. But so what would you say, because you talked about it taking you 3 years or a little bit over that to really start getting going. Like what would you say to the average agent who kind of like knows they should be investing somewhat, but haven't, taken the leap yet? Like, what's some advice you would give?
Yeah. So our first investment, obviously, we had built our production to a level to where I was okay not getting paid that $9,000 on the other end, right, commission wise.
Yeah.
So there is a level of production. There's a level of comfort that was in there, but also I didn't necessarily need that sort of transaction to get started. That was just the one that made the most sense to get started.
Yep.
For finding the deals, you can carve out percentages, right? You just have to be willing to have the conversation and willing to ask the question, right? So I mean, as a real estate professional, you're already, well, you should be the resource for great content, great information, and putting it out there, utilizing social media for the very positive things that it can do. Um, but beyond that, when you see deals, you should be reaching out to people because you never know what you're going to find within your network unless you
Mhm.
ask the question,
Yep.
right? One of my big ahas, um, let's see, I did like a minute and a half video. I put it on social media and it was like, hey, we've been running into different opportunities, different deals, and we just want to throw it out there to anybody in our network. If you're interested, we're going to do this little workshop. No more than 8 to 10 people are going to be able to fit in this room. Let me know if you're interested. And boom, it was like bang, 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 seats filled.
Yep.
I walked out of that room with $750,000 in assets that was willing to participate. And it blew my
Yeah.
mind because these were people I never expected,
Yeah.
never, not even once expected to be like, yeah, I've got this much. Yeah, I don't know what to do with this. Yeah, and it was just like, holy crap. It, I'm not having the right conversations.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what it's all about. You got to sow seeds.
Exactly, 100%. I mean, I have a similar story. I'll be honest with you. I didn't raise 750,000 in my first meeting,
Well,
but
that was luck.
that's phenomenal. But I would do similar things, and I would put out content, and I would have people come to some of my renovations and say, "This is a deal I'm doing. I've got another one coming up." You'd always get someone who is interested, and not everybody has $750,000 to participate, but
Right.
somebody might have 50, they might have 100. I think letting lack of capital be the reason why you can't get into investing is just foolish, because there's so many different ways. And like you just said, I mean, you know, you had a first attempt and you got almost $1 million. Now that isn't probably what I would say is like standard protocol, but I mean, it can happen and there's money out there. And I think the thing for agents is just that you are the expert. You're the one that can find the deals. People want to invest in real estate,
Right.
right? They've got money. Most people don't want to be in the stock market. They don't understand it. It's too risky. They can't put their money in the bank. There's no return. So what do? I mean, you've got an opportunity with a hard asset that they
Right.
understand, that they can see, touch, and feel, and you're an expert. And that's not the only way that you can do it with no money, but there's certainly a lot of ways you can do it.
Right. Well, yeah, and also I need to premise that that wasn't my first ever reaching out to my network, right? I mean, I had video after video of projects that we've done
Yep.
where, I'm walking through a house and it's raining from the ceiling.
Yep.
Like this wasn't my first attempt, right? By any means. So people knew what I did. It was just it was impressive to see the response and
Yep.
actually going, hey, who out there is interested?
But I think, the point is you built up credibility over time,
For
right?
sure.
And that's the other thing that you can do. Like, even if you're not ready to invest yet, hey, build up the credibility that you're an expert in your field. And
Yep.
I think sometimes people are afraid to be like, hey, I know what I'm doing. But when
Right.
you really look at it, you compared to like the average Joe, 1,000 times more about real estate. 1,000 times more about real estate investing. And there are people that go to 3-day seminars and they don't know anything, and they go out, they buy a house. I mean, so
Oh no.
especially if you've been in it for even 2, 3, 4 years, whatever the amount of time is, like, a lot more than the average person who's going to go out there and do
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, a lot of folks get into this industry for the glitz and the glam initially, and then realize the opportunity for connection, right? And so if you can highlight your connector side of your world and participate with these folks that have the resources, like the opportunity is all there. You just have to be willing to ask, right? I mean, again, going back to the persistent side of the world, like if you just keep asking, you're bound to run into the right conversation. And if you haven't found it yet, you just haven't found the right conversation, because you're not putting yourself out there saying, hey, I'm looking to participate. I'm looking to invest. I'm looking to play a part. Here's a great deal. You want to take a piece of this pie and come participate? Here's where I'm going to participate. And you don't even have to put any money in. You just have to be a part of it. So if you're not running into those conversations, those opportunities, then I would say just, you got to get out there and continue looking for the opportunities to have those conversations.
Cool. So what are your goals over the next like year, 2 years, 3 years? Like what are you focused on now?
Real estate and real estate investment has been really good to me, and my family. So, we're in this scenario where we're focused on building a fund for real estate professionals and continuing, that cycle. But more than anything, I see this trend coming down the pipe, and I think the COVID thing kind of gave us an opportunity to where us as real estate professionals can pivot, hopefully, pretty quick. But I see this trend of cash infusion coming into the markets, and I really want to get in front of that. So I'm focusing business-wise on where we can be that cash infusion. We can get in front of it, because if I can get in front of it, then I can help protect the real estate professional community. I can help build a moat around the real estate transaction, if you will. If not, the Zillows, the Open Doors, the Offer Pads, they're going to start creeping into our markets and bypassing us, because the cash transaction is just much easier. So business wise, I'm focused on creating a pretty big fund. We're talking about bringing in 15 to $20 million to where we can start hopefully attracting some of those transactions, take care of the seller, create a less stressful transaction, and then also be able to find the buyers, and create a cash opportunity for them to just make the easy exchange, and therefore build in and protect the commissions that we have in our real estate profession, versus getting run out by the big players.
Yeah. So this is interesting because, I talk to a lot of people. I've had a lot of people on my podcast, and I've never really had anybody or had the conversation with anybody about why you should be an investor, because the brokerage world is changing.
Right.
So, it's something that it's funny because I do a lot of investing, and I do brokerage, and I've got a brokerage, but I never really thought about it in terms of that. Like when I think about investing, I think about like, hey, earning passive income, like doing flips and getting big chunks and all of the other benefits that you can have. But I never really thought about it in terms of just surviving. And seriously, I mean, this is like, I'm like, being hit right now. I'm like, you know what? Like if I'm the average agent, even if I don't want to earn passive income, even if I don't want to earn quick hits on flips, you may have to start going a little bit towards this model, because if Zillow's doing it and Zillow can raise unlimited capital and they go into any market that they want to, and they start to make cash offers and all that, you may not be able to transact as easily without being able to do some of the stuff.
For sure.
So
yeah,
I think that's interesting.
There's a bigger play, and I feel like the industry is missing it right now. But there's a bigger play to where if we can get in front of it and we can provide a little bit of control, right? And I don't have all the answers by any means, but if we can provide a little bit of control over the transactions that happen in our community, we can keep the money in our community. The Zillows, the Offer Pads, all those, where are those profits going? Like they're all going outside of our communities, outside of our states, but it's our real estate. It's our ground that we play in and live in every single day. So why in the hell are we not focused on building something to insulate ourselves, protect our community, protect our industry, protect our professionals, right? We're completely missing the boat here, I think. And it's hard from, way up here in Alaska and, podunk little $300,000 city that and market that I play in, or 300,000 people. But there is a much bigger piece of the pie at stake here. And we're so busy recruiting, we're so busy trying to earn that next commission, and we're so busy trying to beat out our competitor that we're missing it, and we're totally blinded with that piece of the equation where these big dogs are just sitting here going, get more money rolling, and then we will just come in and we'll wipe out real estate professionals in these communities.
Yeah. A
Sorry,
little bit.
soapbox.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just interesting. I mean, nobody knows the future 100%, but it's definitely, an interesting perspective. And I think just yet another reason for people to invest in real estate, or at least learn some of the investing tools to be able to survive. So, Joe, I want to thank you for coming on today. I appreciate it. Never have had a guest on from Alaska, so this is a first for a lot of things. So, and actually, I don't even know if I've ever talked to anybody from Alaska. This is a lot for me today. So
that's funny. That's 2 in a row. I've had that exact same call. I don't know if I've ever talked to anybody from Alaska. Well,
I'm trying to think. I don't know. I don't know the answer. So,
well, let me be your resource. Let me be your connection. Alaska is a really incredible place. If you ever think about coming up, or any of your listeners, honestly, like, I know where the fish are.
Yeah.
I know where the sites are, and I know the time of year that you should be here. So I can definitely play that part of the resource game as well.
Cool. All right, Joe, the new travel agent. You got another?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, no. I don't want to associate there.
All right, Joe. Thank you very much
This
for
was
coming
fun.
on.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.